Our guest on Perspectives today is Earl Tucker. Earl has been involved in lots of stuff in Ashtabula, and one of them is Ashtabula Parks. Hello, Earl. How you doing?
Very good, Bob. Thank you for having me on.
Well, there is a levy coming up May 4th. It's a renewal of park levy there, and it is not a new tax, correct? People aren't going to be charged anymore for this.
Right. It's the same tax that was voted on 5 years ago by the citizens and passed by a very good margin the first time.
So you're optimistic this time around?
Yes, I am. I think we've done a pretty good job of shepherding the funds around. There are a total of 11 parks within the city limits of Ashtabula.
How much money does this generate?
It generates... We budget for about $288,000 a year, but in reality, we get a little bit closer to $300,000.
And it's 1.5 mils.
Correct.
So that isn't a huge amount for 11 parks.
Well, when you sit down and you look at the figures, it's really not that much money when you consider that that levy also pays for 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees from April through October.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions is how are they maintained? So what did Ashtabula do before they had this levy?
Well, way back when, and I'm talking over 50 years ago, Ashtabula had a plethora of employees and a very large tax base. The plants.
Mm-hmm.
So we had tree trimmers and supervisors and all sorts of employees that could maintain the parks. As that tax base went away, so did the employees.
Right, they were cut. So 2015 people decided something needs to be done? Our parks are looking pretty shabby?
Well, the Parks Board was created back in the early 2000s, and I was appointed in about 2007, I believe it was, to join the board by Anthony Cantagallo, who was then
the city manager. Yeah.
And back then we were working on a budget of about $30,000 a year, which was the franchise fee from the water company.
Oh.
And then, of course, local government funds took some huge hits, and they took that money away from us, figuring that it could be spent better elsewhere in the city. So we pushed for many years to finally get the levy on board and get city council behind us. And voila, we managed to convince everyone that we could, improve our parks with a small tax base and try and change the blight that had faced the parks for over 50 years.
And has that happened?
Yes, we've managed to complete several large projects. We put a new roof on the concession stand at Walnut Beach, the hillsides at both Walnut Beach and at Highland Beach Park were cleared of dead shrubs and brush, and the trees limbed off to create a view. This past year, we opened a brand new set of tennis and pickleball courts on Walnut Boulevard.
I tell you, pickleball's the big thing these days.
That's what we were understood to believe. One of our newest board members happened to bring that to us, and City Council was a little bit reticent on wanting to put in basketball courts, and so we settled on tennis and pickleball.
Uh-huh. Conneaut Township Park is talking about that, and the Conneaut Port Authority is wanting to take over one of the parks in Conneaut, and they want to put a pickleball court there as well. So I've heard a lot about pickleball lately.
Yeah, up until 2 years ago, I had never heard of it before. And
yeah, then all of a sudden it's everywhere.
And was like, hey, okay, this is a nice compromise.
You know, another thing that I know that's happened is Cornelius Park, right downtown there, is the water fountain.
Yes, that's another project that's been spearheaded by the Downtown Development Association, and Larry Fargo has been in charge of that project. And the Parks Board has committed a fair amount of money to help along with that. And a year ago, we purchased Christmas decorations to go in the fountain.
Oh, you know, I last year I made a point to go there and take some photos of it. I got a neutral density. I don't want to get too technical, but I got a neutral density filter for my camera, which kind of you can slow down the shutter and make water look kind of, I don't know, hazy and give it a different texture. So. Okay.
Well, no, we're pretty proud of the way that park is slowly coming around.
Yes.
Once we cleared out a lot of the brush that was just sitting around and cleaned up the beds and adding the fountain back into working order, that park has come along very nicely.
And you had, in pre-COVID times, there have been like Christmas tree decorating there.
Correct. There again, that's run by the Downtown Development Association. They've been very good partners to work with, as has the My Neighborhood Cooperative, which works out of the old Chestnut School area, and Clifford Caden Presidential Park.
Yeah. Was that the park that a whole bunch of neighbors just went in there and started renovating a few years ago? It was just like neglected?
Yes, that is. That park is just off of Madison Avenue, and it's hidden from everybody since there's no direct access. You have to go down a driveway to get into it.
It's a residential area.
Right. And it's got a soccer field that was put in by Crystal Global many years ago. There's now a gazebo, pavilion-style structure, playground equipment that was donated by the city schools, basketball courts, and a very large community garden.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. You're right.
Which has been a huge success. That was started by Community Action and the My Neighborhood group, and then My Neighborhood has taken it over totally.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah. And so that is where a lot of people come and they plant. They don't have room themselves at their homes. At their not in their homes, but in their yards. And so there's a community garden there, and people work the garden.
Basically, the way it's run is they run it sort of as a cooperative or communal garden. They have a gentleman who maintains it, plows it, weeds it, and things like that, and then you can buy shares of the produce. And every year that they've had it, they've still had tons of vegetables left over to donate to food pantries.
That's excellent, yeah.
And 2 years ago, we started adding some fruit trees to the park, and we plan on adding more to add fruits to the vegetables.
Excellent. Excellent, yeah. That's the one thing I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, and often do in interviews like this, is quality of life in a community. Some people can argue that in the grand scheme of things, parks aren't that important, but parks attract people to a community. They attract businesses. You get the park system in Ashtabula. You get the bike paths. You got the Metro Park system. You get the Ashtabula Arts Center. And I mean, it's all together. It's a pretty good package, don't you think?
Yes, recreation and green spaces are very important to economic and community development, and I like to think the efforts that we put forth towards the recreational side of things in our parks do a lot to improve things in Ashtabula and give visitors as well as residents a much better view of what Ashtabula is and could be.
Mm-hmm.
One of our biggest things was when we passed the levy the first time, we promised the citizens that we would bring back fireworks to Ashtabula. And thanks to the efforts of the Liftbridge Community Association and the city manager and the Ashtabula Fire Department, between the fire department and the Parks Board, we have been able to bring back fireworks every year except for last year's COVID.
Last year's a little asterisk for everything.
Yes, it has been. Many of our parks were all open, but playgrounds were closed, basketball courts were closed, and we're slowly getting things put back. The other big thing that the Parks Board does is we provide the money for lifeguards every summer at Walnut Beach.
That's a big deal.
Yes, it is. We spend somewhere in the neighborhood of about $30,000 a year in a contract with the YMCA. They provide the lifeguards, and we provide the funding. And they've been involved in several rescues along the beach over the last few years. They've done a very good job for us.
As a former lifeguard myself, I know the importance of it, and it gets me kind of unsettled to see the number of places where people can swim and there are no lifeguards.
Well, we had that choice many years ago when they first took the budget away from the Parks Board before the days of the levy, and that was the only thing that we had to force. City Council insisted on having lifeguards as a safety measure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. Tell us a little bit more about some of the other parks and what have been done with them, with the money.
Well, the biggest three parks are Clifford Caden Presidential Park on the south side.
Right.
Smithfield Park, which is right there off of 19th and Lake, and West Avenue, and there's baseball. The first dog park in northeastern Ohio between Mentor and Erie when it first went in. And that was back, that's been in place for over 10 years now.
And now you see that Jefferson has one, and Conneaut's talking about putting them in too,
right.
Dog parks.
And you never really see a lot of people at it, but it is well used.
Absolutely.
Smithfield Park also has the North Shore Bicycle Trail passes through that.
Yeah, I was out there last week.
And that was a very nice thing. We're trying to find the lumber and product to put in exercise stations around the walking track.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
Unfortunately, COVID has shut down a lot of the lumber mills, so product isn't available for us.
But with COVID, we have about 30 seconds. With COVID, I mean, it really shows the importance of the parks in the community. You can still get out, and it's important to exercise.
It is, and that bicycle trail, despite the complaints about some portions of it, is a great application for the city.
It is great. Like I say, I was on there last week. I like it. So, May 4th, the park it's not a new tax. It's a 1.5 mil renewal, correct?
Yes, it is, and we really encourage the citizens of Ashtabula to get out and vote. There's not much on the primary ballot this year, but that's one of the more important things.
Absolutely. Earl Tucker, thank you very much. I'm Bob Lebzelder on Perspectives.
Thank you, Bob.